Okay, I am at North Texas RPG Con doing one-question interviews with game designers and writers and artists. And I'm here with Jacob Hurst and Donny, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name.
Garcia.
Donny Garcia from Swordfish Islands, makers of the amazing Swordfish Islands sandbox. Is that a sandbox campaign? Is that what you can consider?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they do some other publishing. I bought a beautiful edition of a Jack Vance book today from them with this great foil cover and cloth binding, and it's just lovely. My one question that I'm asking is, creative people always have more ideas for projects than they have time or resources to actually produce all the cool ideas that they have for projects. Mm-hmm. So what characteristics does an idea you have for a project have to have before you're going to decide, I'm going to dump my time and energy into that work?
Sure. I think for me, it's something that I really want to do it. Like, it just has to, I don't know, set my brain on fire in some way. And I don't have a clear answer of what that is. I don't know. It varies. It depends. I'm kind of, I don't know, Team Chaos, I guess.
I have to know what happens. I have to know what happens, because when you have the idea, you don't always have the full vision of what it is. And I mean, you get a bunch of ideas all at once, and you don't. Some of them sound good, some of them don't. But when that one gets you, you want to know what happens. Like, what happens if ... and then you want to explore that idea. And the more I find myself exploring an idea, and the more time I spend on it, if I find myself wanting to know, I know I've got something. I need to know. I need to know what happens. So for me, that's when I know. Like, when we did the tomb, it was like, here's this lich, here's this tomb, but what if this happened? What if that happened? Well, the players aren't supposed to be in there at the beginning because they're so small compared to this great being. But what if they did go in there? What if they did explore? What if they woke up in there? That was what got me in that project. In our first project, the Dark, it was, we have all these things. Well, what if the players show up? What happens? And it was digging deep. And the further we went, it was just
cool. And then, at least with Tomb of Black Sand, I think having a deadline was very helpful.
Yes, having a deadline does also help. It does keep, okay, let's go. Explore.
Okay, now we really have to do it.
But yeah. At a certain point, you do get to the point where it's, you have to do it, and it has to be done.
So do you notice a particular pattern of projects that make you think, or do you notice, like, oh, I see a pattern in the projects that I've gotten excited about, that something like a through line that's similar in all of those? Or maybe not. Maybe everything is like, oh, this is different than the last thing, so let's do that.
I mean, I think sometimes I feel like we aren't cohesive enough in, like, the things that we have. I mean, because we've got Hot Springs Island, and then we have the Tomb of Black Sand, and then there's Frostspire, and then there's the things that we published for other people, and then we did a Jack Vance book, and so it's really kind of, sometimes I feel like we're, like, scattershot all over the place, and maybe that's a bad thing or working against us in some ways. But then in other ways, I feel it's just kind of like, this is really awesome right now, and I love this very intently in this moment, and so I'm gonna, like, run after it as fast as I can. But I don't know. There probably is a theme, but maybe I'm too close to it to see what that is right now. But I don't know.
The thing for me would be when we would throw ideas back and forth, when I would start saying something, and then he would get that look on his face like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Or like vice versa, and he would just start saying something, and I'm like, that's my voice in my head saying that.
What's the improv thing? What's the improv thing? What's
they call it in improv. They call it conversions. When two people on stage are having a moment and they kind of just begin to click, and that's for in both of those cases, because we've Zoom calls or in person or anything like that. It's just been, and then all of a sudden it's back and forth, and it's just.
Well, and there are 2 other people on the team. There's
Yes.
Gabriel, who does the art, and then there's Evan. And so when the 4 of us are able to get together, which we don't get to do as much as we used to,
Yeah.
but we did it, 2 weeks ago on the weekend, and I mean, after maybe about an hour or so, all 4 of us were just kind of like firing on all cylinders, which was amazing. And so Gabe's drawing art, and he's like, "Oh, look at this," and we're like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" And then we're just like spitballing, and it just.
So you're having these like group flow
Yes.
moments.
Group flow state, yes.
Yeah. That's got to be amazing.
Yes.
I mean, that's how the Hot Springs Island came together. We were sitting in a room. It was 4 of us. We were in a cramped room, and we were just talking. And while we were talking, Gabe was drawing, and then he would show us something, and then it was immediately like that does this, and Jacob's just writing furiously, probably hand cramping while he's just, because Evan and I are just talking back and forth, and it was just that's how it came to be. It was
And when we first did it, when we
solid.
first started working, we got to work like that, I don't know, once a week for 4 or 6 months, just fleshing stuff out, and it was wonderful. So instead of getting together and gaming, once a week, we were getting together and doing that once a week.
Yeah.
It was
That's cool.
So yeah.
That's really cool. Well, it shows in the product because it's a wonderful thing. I really enjoyed reading through it, and I think I got to figure out a way I need to get people together to play this because it's just great. So, thank you. Or go ahead.
I was going to say, with our next product coming out, we will have a way for you to get new people who have never played a game into just a very basic, very, I think, tightly written one shot that they can get introduced to the game. Low rules, but like high stakes, and it really gets them immersed into the setting.
Well, and how that came is the rules were very. We haven't included rules in the book because we've been doing system neutral stuff, which is very important to us, and we like doing that. But at the same time, that makes it hard. That's good for advanced dungeon masters. But if you're brand new and haven't played before, then if we're like, hey, here's Hot Springs Island, a new person is going to be like, I don't even know what to do with this. And so then we were able to play with Mike Evans at Gen Con 2019. I think, was it 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, 2019. And Mike ran this thing called Meat Grinder. It's his own rule system, and it's super rules light. And so we were able to play in that. And again, I mean, it was just like we were playing it together. And I feel like at the time, like we knew, like this is fantastic. And so being able to go back to that and reference it, like we just knew at that time, like this is it. Like this is great. It works. It does exactly what we needed to do. And so then, we were talking about the problems that we were having with Marlowe's. Because it needed something like that. Well, what can we do? Well, Mike has this thing that's already done. It's fantastic. Well, let's talk to him and go from there. So
We got his blessing, and so now we're using it. And I ran 2 games. I ran one today, and I ran one yesterday, and both of the groups had a lot of fun. So,
or at least they said they did.
at least they said they did.
They said they did.
They weren't on their phones. They were watching me. They were engaged.
Oh, that's
so,
what you want to look
yeah.
for.
Yes.
Right there.
So,
People will say nice things, but what they do is what really matters.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, this has been really great, fellas, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
For sure.
thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
And thanks.